to invite Rob Dinnis. Hopefully you can share your screen, and Rob's going to be talking to us about your research at Ffynnon Beuno cave up in Denbighshire. So,
okay, yeah,
Rob,
I will.
Hopefully,
I will share screen. Hopefully this works. One thing I would say is that I now can't see you, so if anything goes wrong, then please shout. Okay. Yes. So yeah. Okay. I will. I'll try and stick to 10 minutes. I'm going to talk about one of the sites that I've done work on, which is Ffynnon Beuno cave up in Denbighshire. I'll try and be reasonably brief. For those of you who don't know the cave, that's where it is. And if I can put my laser pointer on. So this is Ffynnon Beuno cave entrance here and there. And something to point out is this here. This is next door. This is Caegwyn cave. So you can see this was excavation as it was underway in 1885. It was excavated by Henry Hicks. Both caves were. And actually Henry Hicks went longer than that by a few years. And you can actually see this was before we started work, 2011. You can see that there's a much larger spoil heap which isn't present in 1885. So you can see all of the spoil coming out of the caves, but of course there was a lot more that was done after that as well. So Henry Hicks excavated at the beginning of the project. We didn't know whether he excavated the entirety of the cave, but that was one of the things we wanted to test. But it was clear that he'd excavated an awful lot of what was in the cave in the 1880s. And Ffynnon Beuno sort of encapsulates a lot of the problems that we have with British caves, Welsh caves that were excavated during this period, in that there's very, very little left. And of course, what was excavated out does not have a great deal of information alongside it to allow us to make really good use of the archives. So that's sort of the background to the work. In terms of what was collected in the 1880s, it's clear that we've got, or we had Ice Age sediments in the cave, so late Pleistocene sediments with lots and lots of animal bone. The collections were studied by Kate Scott, and it was, I think, convincingly shown this was a hyena den. This is in agreement with the original excavator who spoke of the number of hyena bones in the cave. But really, my interest in this site is because it has stone tools that we think belong to the last Neanderthals to occupy Northern Europe, and the earliest modern humans in Northern Europe as well, with those provisional dates that I've put there. Actually, the stone tools is an interesting thing from the 1880s collections, because this is, well, to put it in context, this is one of only 3 or 4 sites in Britain that have both of these archaeological cultures represented, one of only 2 in Wales. But what was strange about this site was, based on, I won't explain how I determined this, but I'm happy to answer a question about it. Based on my study of this old collection of, I think, 8 or 9 flints, I predicted that there should be hundreds of flints, if not thousands, based on the form of a couple of them. And so that was one of the things that was particularly intriguing, is where all these missing flints were. So we initiated some new field work there, did short, very short, some cases very short field seasons over a few years, the last of which was in 2019. And what we did was we excavated into the 1880s spoil, in part to sort of try and see if we could find some of these missing artifacts. We also wanted to see if the cave had been completely emptied, so we wanted to test for intact deposits inside the cave. And one of the problems that is true of many these old collections is that sometimes the bone material in particular isn't suitable for certain types of analysis due to various glues that were put on it at the time. So that was another thing we wanted to do, was to collect new material, new samples that we could then use for analysis. Yeah, so to start off with, outside the cave, we excavated spoil deposits outside the cave, and also outside Caegwyn next door as well. One of the things this has allowed us to do is to sort of map where the spoil deposits are, which wasn't known before. The answer is there's a spread across the whole field. And what's interesting is there's Ice Age bone material in the spoil from Caegwyn, as well as the big spoil heap outside Ffynnon Beuno. The other thing is, of course, within this Spoil deposit is there are lots of sort of lots of bones, lots of artifacts, and we've been able to add many more parts to the Ffynnon Beuno cave story. The original excavator was very clear that there was no Holocene archaeology. Well, we've found Mesolithic, we have Bronze Age, we have Neolithic. This here is a human tooth that's late Neolithic, and we have more recent historical activity as well. So, of course, that sort of story which was lost, we now are able to put a bit more of that together from the material outside the cave. One of the things that I found quite frustrating, but also intriguing again, is that these missing lithics that I confidently predicted should have been in the cave, only some of them appear to be in the spoil heap. The very large and impressive pieces, those few of them, are in museum collections from the 1880s collections. In the spoil heap, it seems to be mostly incredibly small pieces. So all of those pieces in the middle, they seem to be missing. And I guess this, the most likely explanation is that they were given away as gifts to various landowners and visiting dignitaries. So I've tried to find these, but no joy so far. So if anyone comes across a box of flints with marked FB up Ffynnon Beuno, then please do let me know. So the other thing, of course, we have a few flints. So one of the things we've been able to do is, well, I think with a note of caution due to the missing pieces, is sort of start to think about what people were doing in the Ice Age at Ffynnon Beuno. Again, I won't go into this now, but I think what we found is consistent with this being just a very brief hunting station rather than anything more prolonged, both for the late Neanderthals, but also particularly for the early modern humans. And then inside the cave, well, this was sort of a nice surprise. So in the Eastern Fissure Passage, this is this here, we found some intact bone-bearing sediments. This is important because the Eastern Fissure Passage is where we know the late Neanderthal spear point came from. Actually, there are very few, I think there are 2 lithics from the site that we know that lithic was found in this particular place, albeit just one of the passages rather than anything more precise. But this was the fissure passage where that late Neanderthal implement was found. And we found intact deposits seemingly underlying where Hicks found that Neanderthal artifact with bone in them. So we've excavated a little bit of that, and again we have a characteristic middle Lebensian fauna, moon isotope stage 3. All of it's still actually undergoing analysis, but all of it seems to be consistent with a hyena accumulation like previous studies on the old collection have suggested. Here, for example, we have a juvenile woolly rhino tooth. So this is a juvenile woolly rhino, of course, a favoured prey of hyena. So one of the things we've been doing, and I'll go into a bit more detail in the next slide with this, but is we've been trying to improve the collagen extraction from the bones. One of the things that's been known previously based on attempts to use the old collection is that the collagen preservation is not great at the site. So we've been doing some work to try and improve that, and then as a result we've been able, as I'll show you, to successfully do some radiocarbon dating, which I think is an important step forward for Ffynnon Beuno. But of course it opens up the other things like zooms. We have a lot of fragmentary pieces, so of course zooms is something that we're in the planning stages of doing, and we have isotope analysis that's underway now. And the other thing, which of course Elizabeth just mentioned, aDNA analysis, and this has developed now to the point where we get DNA from the sediments, and actually this is something that I'm doing with another couple of people at several sites across Britain, is sampling sediment sequences for DNA, and Ffynnon Beuno is one of those that we're doing that for. So just to focus in, I think I've got a couple of minutes left, on the radiocarbon dating. So we've had a problem at Ffynnon Beuno in that there are a few radiocarbon dates on material from the site, but they've been unreliable. I should sort of confess at the outset that one of the problems we have is tying dates to human activity, which of course is something that Elizabeth mentioned. So far, we haven't found any convincing humanly modified material in our collections. We have a few pieces that we're looking at in a lot more detail, but at the moment, I don't think we can say that we've got anything. But more generally, trying to sort of date the rough age of the sedimentary deposit has been a problem for various reasons. Previous dates have been unreliable for several reasons. One is due to the low collagen. So you can see here, this is all of the radiocarbon dates prior to our work. And you can see that a lot of we have a lot of fails due to no collagen, low collagen. And also warning signs about the low collagen as well. And the other thing, of course, is that all of these dates were produced prior to the year 2000, and therefore we know that radiocarbon dates in this range prior to that process at the Oxford lab prior to 2000. I would say that at least 70% of them we now know are inaccurate, and probably it's closer to 90%, although I accept that people might think I'm a doom monger for that, but there you go. But anyway, one of the things we wanted to do was try and get some more dates, some dates that we could have a bit more faith in, because some of these, for example, spotted hyena at 18,000 just aren't realistic. So we wanted to do some work on this. So what we did was we targeted the bones, knowing that they were likely to have low collagen, using percentage nitrogen testing. So this actually worked. We did, it's just a very, very small amount that's needed to test. And then the idea is that's then a proxy for the amount of collagen, therefore how likely it is to date. So working with the people at Oxford, this is what we did. Highlighted 2 bones that looked like they were datable, and then ran those as dated those. Actually, we got 2 dates on this bovid that were identical, and 1 on this reindeer bone. So you can see that these are, I mean, they're older than all of the previous dates. We have an infinite age on a bovid bone, so that's at least 50,000 BP, and then reindeer bone of around 48,000 BP. So what this shows is that the material that we've excavated is, if it's Middle Devensian, which it looks like it is based on the type of fauna present, then it's at the very beginning of the Middle Devensian. Actually, probably the deposits we're in now may well predate the archaeological material that used to be in the cave. So there you go. Thank you very much. I think I managed to fit to my 10 minutes. So thank you to various people, but I'm aware that I probably have missed people off there. So I apologise for that, but thank you anyway.